So you're looking to have a suit made, you want to have a bit more character to it, a bit more interest, you need to watch this video. So I'm here today in the studio and I've got two of my absolute favourite suits on the mannequins, and we've been talking about some of the detail they have, lots of the details I talk about in other videos. I thought it'd be useful to talk them through one by one. If you're thinking of having a suit made, you have a tailor and you want certain looks or features, sometimes it's hard to explain them or what terms to use. A bit of a breakdown of all the features here. Some you might like, some you want to use, some you might want to avoid. So this is a suit I've had for 3 or 4 years. It's from, it's a ready-made suit by Alexander Craft Monte Carlo. It's a Prince of Wales check. The cloth is a flannel from Vitale Barberis, beautiful fabric. But let's look at the features and the cuts. It's a one-button single-breasted. Now I love a one-button suit. It's very clean, it's very sculpted, it's quite focused. And as I've often spoken about before, on a two-button suit, you don't do the bottom button up anyway. So if you're a person that thinks, well, what's the point of having a button if we're never going to do it up? This is good to consider. I think it's very smart. It's got a notched lapel, which is considered the most conservative normal lapel. Slightly wider, I think this is probably coming in just shy of 4 inches. But you'll notice the notch on it is slightly less than 90 degrees, which I think gives it a bit more taste, a bit more considered. So again, if you were talking to your tailor or you're looking for a ready-to-wear brand, a slightly smaller notch looks very, very elegant. It's got a structured shoulder, which means it has a pad to it. But again, a feature I talk about a lot, it's got a semi-roped sleeved head. So that means at the sleeve head here, you've got some fullness brought into the top sleeve and it's slightly raised. Gives it a lovely silhouette. So that's what I call about a roped or a semi-roped shoulder. Generally combined with a straight-lined padded shoulder. So that is a roped sleeved head, sometimes called a shoulder. But I think that's where the confusion comes from, is that we always think that is the shoulder, that is the sleeve head. And we say rope shoulder, we're referring actually to the sleeve end here. Looking at the pockets, now pockets add a lot of personality to a suit, and this has a slanting flaps pockets, quite aggressive, quite sporty. If you're looking to get a tweed hacking jacket, great feature to have. Also, this one has a third ticket pocket, also angled, always on the right hand side, the opposite side to the chest. Lovely on a suit, particularly on a sporty suit. Slightly rakish, slightly more interesting, slightly more bespoke looking than just normal straight pockets. I don't like it on all my suits, but on something like this, which is to me a little bit sportier, a Prince of Wales check, something you might wear for a day at the races, I like that nod to sort of country English style. In fact, if you're very interested in country English style, we made a great video with Jemima Wilson, which you'll find a link to here. And I guess the most interesting, unusual feature about this suit here is the cuff. Now, he says unusual because I wear them all the time, but both of these, the jacket I'm wearing today and this suit, have a turn back cuff. So you can see it here. Now, turn back cuffs are of classic English detail. They came into fashion in the late 1940s, part of the Edwardian fashion, looking back to fashions of the early 20th century. And they're not usual. They're a real sign of bespoke tailoring. I've spoken about them before. I'd always say if you're not sure about having a cuff on your suit, I would say don't get one if you're having it made, but make sure you get some extra cloth because they can be added retrospectively. So if you're not sure if it's your taste, it's not something you have to make a decision on because it's changeable. Unlike perhaps a ticket pocket, once you put a ticket pocket on a suit, that's kind of staying. Actually, this suit was made without a gauntlet cuff, and I had one added on. What I do when I want to add it onto a ready-made garment or an old made-to-measure suit is use cloth. I often use the cloth from the inside leg because I'm not the tallest chap in the world. I need my sleeve shortened and my bottom of my trousers shortened. I use that excess cloth and I have my tailor put a cuff on when he shortens the sleeve. So again, if you're buying a ready-made suit and you've got a good alteration tailor, this is the features you can add if you want to try it. An area I'm doing a lot of my customers who wouldn't wear cuffs on their sports jackets, blazers or suits, they would wear them, is on their evening attire. So if you have your dinner jacket You would often do a turn back cuff on the sleeve. Now some makers will do it in the same material as the cloth, of the shell cloth. I don't like that. I much prefer it when you pick out the fabric of the lapel. So if you have satin or grosgrain lapels, use exactly the same material and add a cuff on afterwards. That's a really smart detail, something to consider for your next dinner jacket. And then just touching on the chest pocket, when you're having a suit made, it's one of those areas you don't often discuss. It's just considered that you'll have a chest pocket on your suit, unless you specifically say, I want a flap on it or I don't want it at all, which is both slightly archaic, particularly not having a chest pocket. This one here has a barchetta shaped chest pocket, an Italian name for a small boat, which means there's a slight curve and a slight angle on the chest pocket. I prefer chest pockets which aren't completely straight. We've got a little bit of a taper to the outside of the welt. But again, it's a conversation over your tailor. Now, a lot of these features and details, you're best finding a tailor or a made-to-measure company that has it as a look already, rather than asking for something, because it's a conversation to have. But I'd always say, whenever you ask for these details, if your tailor or the person making it is unsure or reluctant, you might think you're at the wrong tailors. It's always important when you're putting across all these details to them that, are they talking me out of it because they can't do it or they don't like it? But it's always a conversation to have. This suit was actually part of a 3-piece option, so I've got the waistcoat as well. You've probably seen me wear it, and it's double-breasted. I like how when it's done up, the waistcoat follows the line of the jacket. It's not too high. Now I like high buttoning waistcoats too, but on this one I like the way it kind of follows the sweep of the low buttoning one button. So it's double-breasted with 6 buttons, all done up, please. And the lapel, it's got quite a wide shawl collar. Now I love shawl collars on waistcoats because it gives you a very clean, continuous sweep. Sometimes I find if you have a peak lapel on a double-breasted, it can sometimes lean forward or get out misshapen, whereas this gives you a lovely, clean, beautiful, what they call belly. Now you may have heard me use the word belly before, or you may have heard it in a tailor's, you might have read about it in a magazine. Belly is on a lapel, it has a curve. Now all lapels, all good lapels, have a slight curve to it. Even this jacket lapel, which probably looks to the eye quite straight, actually has a very subtle rounded curve to complement the fullness in the chest. In tailoring, you want things to be rounded rather than squared off and straight. So just to reiterate and absolutely confirm, hopefully for the last time, there is absolutely no reason or rule why a double-breasted waistcoat should have any buttons left undone. But what is important, and again this is something which is important when you're going for a fitting or bung off the peg, is because double-breasted waistcoats are cut straight at the bottom and cut shorter, you need to make sure the trousers are high enough to sit under the waistcoat. You should never ever see any of the waistband, and certainly not shirt, beneath your double-breasted waistcoat. It really, for me, completely kills the look. So going on to this suit here, which is a 2-button suit, and as is correct, the bottom button is left undone. Now, again, this is something we get in the comments and things that have often been discussed. The reason this is left undone has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with why we leave the bottom button of a waistcoat undone. They come from different histories, different aesthetics, and it's got nothing to do with any king. So again, let's leave it out there. The reason this button is left undone, because that's how the jacket is cut. It's cut into the waist and over the skirts, and if you do that button up, it distorts the jacket and it pulls the vents out. So why do you have a button there? Just for history. If you really hate this, go for a 1 button. Of course, the advantage of a 2-button is it can, I think, take a slightly higher button stance. So if you want something a little bit higher buttoning, the second button just gives it balance, but you never button it up. I think the main feature of this single-breasted suit jacket is its lapel, and it has a peaked lapel, which is typically associated with being a double-breasted lapel. Some tailors I work with would still call that a DB lapel. I've always liked single-breasted, double-breasted lapels. It gives you the presence and the swagger of double-breasted without the extra cloth. Just gives it a little bit more presence, something I've always enjoyed wearing. Reasonably wide, but not excessively so, and fairly high on the shoulder. Again, even though it's not excessively curved, you can probably notice here it has a little bit of a curve or a belly on the lapel. Now, unlike this suit here, this has straight pockets, but also with a ticket pocket. But one of the features I really enjoyed, and something I put into this particular model, was when I was working with Edward Sexton at Chester Barry. I noticed on his suit pockets, even though they were straight, they had a little bit of a curve at the back. So I really enjoy how there's a little bit of a kickback at the back of his pockets. I noticed it once and I just thought it was such a lovely detail that I incorporated it into this suit. A straight pocket on the suit is more conventional. It's a standard look, and probably most of my suits I would nowadays have with straight pockets, usually without a ticket pocket, and currently I generally have most of my suits without pocket flaps. Another feature I customised on this suit, because although this is a standard ready-to-wear size, I have to have my sleeve shortened. When I had the sleeve shortened and the buttons taken off, I elected to have it made with a 2-button cuff. I really like 2-button cuffs, particularly when I like a 2-button cuff and I like it spaced about an inch or so. It's quite a retro detail, often seen on blazers and sports jackets, but I kind of liked it. It looks a bit more considered. I think at the time there was a lot of brands over-egging their suits, and although I like these details, I'm a fan of details on suits, I don't like it when you put too much on it. Everything has to look balanced and considered there for a reason, and I just like the pared down elegance of a 2-button sleeve. And both of these suits are side vented. I would say 95% of the suits I'm making with my customers now are side vented. It's getting to a stage now where it's not even a conversation, which I think is a shame. I think the fronts of jackets get a lot of attention detail and the backs are looking a bit bland. There's a few tailors and a few designers out there changing that. I'm wearing today a ventless jacket, which I still really like and still believe can be very classic. A lot of jackets in the golden era of tailoring in the 30s were indeed cut ventless. It gives it a lovely silhouette. But no, side vent is the standard and conservative. It's rarely incorrect. I guess the only conversation you might want to have with your tailor is the depth of them. Longer vents can be a bit more stylised, a bit more swishy, but generally let the tailor decide. He'll make sure it fits you just right. Well, I hope we've inspired you perhaps to try something a little bit different next time you order a suit. As always, let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe.